Merry Christmas! Hey friends, how was your day? Mine was good too. It's our last day together. I have loved spending this Christmas reading this book with you. I love it. I hate we can't all be together reading it, but I love that we've come together every night this week. It's been so much fun. So we're on our last page, so you guys are professionals by now. Let me see your book. Love it. Okay, and do we have our Bibles? Got it? Good. Okay, and snack time. So it's in a cup, but it's not something to drink. Remember when I told you, I think it was like on day 1, that one of my most favorite snacks is orange and peppermint? Well, I have a clementine and a mint, but I wanted to show you. So you know the peppermint sticks that are kind of like this? They're like the softer ones. And if you had a real orange, and then you stick it in there like a straw, and then you sip on it like a straw, it pulls the orange juice out up the peppermint stick, and it's so yummy. So this is like my modified version. But I see chocolate and cake, cookies. I love the red grapes and you have green grapes and red strawberries. That looks good. Love. Okay. We have our tree and all our ornaments. We have one more ornament and one more part of the story. Any guesses as to what we're going to learn today? It's a pretty good guess. Any more? Oh, okay. I don't know that you're going to be surprised. I think you guys know exactly where the story's going. But for those of us who are still wondering, let's get started. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. So this time we're going to tell the whole story all the way through. So Gabriel came to Mary. And what did Gabriel say to her? Do not be afraid. Right, do not be afraid. You're going to have a baby, the son of the God Most High and King. What else did he call him? He will be great and he will rule the people of Israel forever. Exactly. And she was a little afraid, as we all agreed that we would be as well. And she said, okay, but if God says so, I trust God. So okay, I will be okay. Well, then her and Joseph had to travel all the way to, remember in the book, it called it King David's hometown. What was King David's hometown? Bethlehem, exactly, because it was a census and they had to be counted. And it was a long trip, 4 to 7 days of walking. Because remember, we realized they don't have a scooter, they don't have a bike, they don't have a plane, they don't have a train, they don't have a car. They had their feet, or the donkey's feet, right? And she was very pregnant, like very pregnant. And that was not a comfortable trip. And they were hot and they were sweaty and it was gross. And there was probably sand everywhere. And it just wasn't the most luxurious way to travel. And they get there. Well, they're not the only ones traveling into Bethlehem because of the census. If you didn't live in the town where your family was from, you had to go back to that town. For example, Miss Valerie, I'm from Georgia. So if there was one where I had to go back to where I'm from, I have to travel back to Georgia. But if I didn't have a car or a plane or a train or a bus or a bike, that's a long walk, right? A really long walk, and it was the same sort of idea. But once they got there, all those other people who had already walked back in got there a little faster and already booked up every room in the whole town, and there was nowhere for them to stay. But luckily, one person said, well, I have a stable. They're like, well, take it, right? She was so pregnant. She knew she was going to give birth to baby Jesus any day. She needed somewhere to be. So they went to the stable. And remember, we said it probably wasn't all sparkly, clean, and nice in there. It was a barn. We've all been to a barn before, right? Or seen pictures or watched a movie with a barn in it. Yeah, it has a lot of smelly animals. It's not super clean. The animals make noise and they aren't super clean, right? But in that barn, baby Jesus was born. And they put him in what we call a manger. But what was the manger? That's kind of a tricky question. You're a feeding trough. Absolutely. It was a feeding trough. So it's where all the food for the animals was thrown into. They took all that out, they put a little bit of hay in it, and they laid baby Jesus there. Now, what did they wrap baby Jesus in? Nice furs? No. Silk? No. Swaddling clothes. And remember when we practiced swaddling each other? We laid on a blanket and we rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled really tight. And you were like a little burrito? Yeah, that's what they did with baby Jesus to keep him warm. Now here's the King of the world, the Son of the God Most High, right? The God who sent Jesus to save us from heaven to earth, and he was born and laid in a feeding trough on hay and just a strip of cloth. That's not the way that everybody expected him to come, right? And if we didn't know the story like we do, it probably isn't the way that we would have expected the King of Most High to come, right? Then we learned on that same night, another angel, right? Where did they go? They went and saw the shepherds. The shepherds were in the field. And are the shepherds like glamorous people? Are they like Duke and Duchess or a Lord and Ladies? No, right? They work in a field with sheep. They're kind of, when you think of back in these days, they were sort of like levels, right? You were in different parts of society. They were kind of on the bottom. They were put out in the field because the people in town didn't really want to have to deal with them. They weren't necessarily the brightest or the cleanest. They weren't that smart. They weren't that educated. But God chose to tell them, right? Hey, baby Jesus was born. So they went. So they said, okay. They went. And what'd they do? They went to go see baby Jesus. Exactly. Okay. Ready to finish? Okay, so we're on our last page. Everybody got it? Okay, let's read. The wise men were very smart men that studied the stars. So they knew that a new star in the sky meant a great king had been born. So they set out to find the new king and bring him gifts. And we're going to read some verses, and then we'll read it in our Bibles. But first we'll read it in the book. When Jesus was born in the village of Bethlehem in Judea, Herod was king. During this time, some wise men from the east came to Jerusalem and said, "Where is the child born to be king of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and had come to worship him." Matthew 2, 1 through 2. Okay. I'm kind of tricking you this time because we've been in Luke, right? We've been in Luke chapter 2. But now we're going to go to Matthew chapter 2. And Matthew, is that in the New or Old Testament? The New Testament. And we know that the New Testament's in the back of the Bible. And it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Those first 4 books, what do we call them? The Gospels. Good job. Okay, so let's both take a second and find it. So Matthew, the very first book in the New Testament. And let's remember, if you aren't that familiar, like you can't pull it up in your brain that fast, at the very beginning of your Bible, there's a table of contents. And so you can look for the book you need, and it'll tell you what page to find it on, okay? So I found Matthew. This is what it looks like in mine. It looks probably a little different than yours. And big number 2. And little itty bitty number 1 and number 2. So I'll give you guys a few seconds to find it. Okay, we good? So Matthew chapter 2, big 2, little number 1 through 2, okay? So I'm going to read it. And let's remember, different words, same meaning, right? That's the different versions of the Bible. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of King Herod, wise men from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star as it's rising and have come to worship him." Right? Because they were wise men, right? So they were scholars and very knowledgeable and very educated. And so they study these stars. See all the little stars there? They know where they're supposed to be. And they've studied them for years. But then all of a sudden, this new one appears. Right? So they knew, oh, the king has been born. He's here. Things have changed. So I have a question. Did you know many Bible scholars believe the wise men, he didn't come until Jesus was 1 to 2 years old? A lot of the time we see a nativity scene with the shepherds and the wise men, right? But that's not necessarily true. In fact, they think that baby Jesus, although still little, wasn't quite a newborn baby. He was probably more of a toddler by the time they came to see him, right? Because it was a long trip. It took them a while to get there. Yep. Okay, we ready to hang our last ornament? It's a star. I'm gonna put mine right here. See if it'll go. There we go. The star that the wise men followed. So if you flip to your next page, it tells you that if you want to read more about his story and about all the details of it, you can go to Luke 2, which I know you know how to find, and you can help your siblings and your parent find it, right? Well, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I am so grateful to be able to teach y'all and to be able to read this book with you. I learn more and more from you every time we hang out. And I'm just so grateful for a God who sent the King to save us in the form of a baby. He is unexpected and he always never leaves a detail not thought through and not able to surprise us. And I love that. And I just am so grateful for y'all. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. And from everyone at Trinity and God Quest, we love you and we wish you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Bye, friends.